Welcome to Emma's English. Welcome back to Emma's English Talk, your daily channel for mastering real-world English. I'm your host, Emma. Today, we're going to watch and listen to a conversation about the psychology of habit building and the 2-minute rule. First, just sit back, relax, and try to catch as much as you can. Don't worry if you miss a few words. We will break down the key vocabulary in our word tour later in the video. Ready? Let's dive into the dialogue. I used to think that changing your life meant making these massive, sweeping changes overnight. You know, waking up at 4 in the morning, running 10 miles, and completely overhauling your diet all at once.
That sounds exhausting just thinking about it. Whenever I try to completely reboot my life on a Monday morning, I usually burn out by Wednesday afternoon. It is simply too much pressure to handle.
Exactly. We rely way too much on motivation, and motivation is incredibly fleeting. What I have discovered recently is the concept of building tiny habits, specifically using something called the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule? That sounds like a productivity trick. Does it mean you try to finish all your unpleasant tasks in under 2 minutes? Because my email inbox definitely needs more time than that.
Not quite, though that would be nice. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. You scale the behavior down to the absolute easiest version.
Okay, so if I want to start reading a book every week, I should not sit down and try to read 50 pages right away. I should just aim to read one single page?
Precisely. Telling yourself to read before bed becomes just reading one page. Telling yourself to do 30 minutes of yoga becomes simply taking out your yoga mat. The goal is to make it incredibly easy to start.
That makes sense. The hardest part of going to the gym is usually just putting on my workout shoes and stepping out the front door. Once I am actually there, I usually enjoy lifting weights.
Right. A habit has to be established before it can be improved. If you cannot learn the basic skill of showing up consistently, you have no hope of mastering the finer details of the routine.
But does reading one page or doing one push-up actually do anything? It feels a bit silly. Like, am I really going to get fit by doing a single push-up every day?
It does feel silly at first, but the point is not to do one push-up forever. The point is to master the habit of showing up. You are casting a vote for the type of person you want to become.
So it is more about changing my identity than changing my physical results in that moment. I am proving to myself that I am someone who exercises daily, even if it is just a tiny bit.
Exactly. Once you have established the identity of someone who never misses a workout, then you can start optimizing and doing more. But you cannot optimize a habit that does not exist yet.
I struggle a lot with consistency. I have these bursts of energy where I drink my whey protein, hit the gym hard for 2 hours, and then I do not go back for 3 weeks.
That is the classic boom and bust cycle. The 2-minute rule prevents that because the action is so easy that you can do it even on your worst days. Consistency is far more important than intensity.
I really like that phrase. Consistency is more important than intensity. So how do we apply this concept to something we want to stop doing, like mindless scrolling on our phones before bed?
For breaking bad habits, you want to do the exact opposite. You want to make the action difficult. We call this adding friction to the process. You want to increase the steps between you and the bad habit.
So instead of just keeping my phone on the nightstand where I can easily grab it, I should leave it charging in the kitchen overnight. That definitely adds some friction to the process.
Yes! If your phone is in the kitchen, you have to physically get out of a warm bed, walk down the hall, and go get it. Most of the time, your brain will decide the reward is not worth the effort.
It is fascinating how lazy our brains actually are. We will take the path of least resistance almost every single time. We just have to start using that natural laziness to our advantage.
Our brains are biologically designed to conserve energy. That is why habits exist in the first place. Once a behavior becomes automatic, our brain does not have to spend precious energy thinking about it.
So if we make the positive behaviors incredibly easy, our brain will naturally gravitate towards them. And if we make the negative behaviors require effort, our brain will simply give up on doing them.
That is the secret to behavior change. People think they need more discipline or willpower, but willpower is like a muscle. It gets tired throughout the day. You cannot rely on it constantly.
I definitely feel that. By the time I finish work, my willpower is completely depleted. If I have to choose between cooking a healthy dinner or ordering a pizza, the pizza usually wins.
That is called decision fatigue. But imagine if you had used the 2-minute rule that morning. You spent 2 minutes chopping some vegetables before work. When you get home, the barrier to cooking is much lower.
Oh, that is very clever. You are doing a favor for your future self. Because the vegetables are already prepared, cooking suddenly feels much less overwhelming than starting completely from scratch.
You are designing your environment for success. Motivation is what gets you started, but your physical environment and your daily systems are what keep you going when the motivation inevitably fades away.
Speaking of environment, I notice that when I leave my guitar out on its stand in the living room, I play it almost every day. When it is tucked away in its case, I forget it exists.
That is a perfect example of visual cues. Out of sight, out of mind is a real psychological phenomenon. If you want a habit to be a big part of your life, make the cue a big part of your environment.
I suppose I could do the same thing with drinking more water. If I keep a full water bottle sitting right next to my laptop on my desk, I will probably drink it without even thinking about it.
You definitely will. And again, you can use the reverse strategy for bad habits. If you want to eat less junk food, simply do not keep it in your kitchen cupboards. Make the cue completely invisible.
It is so simple, but we often overcomplicate things. We buy expensive planners and download complex habit tracking apps, when all we really need to do is change where we put objects in our house.
Planners and apps can be helpful, but they are just tools. The foundational principle is always going to be making the right things easy and the wrong things hard. Everything else is just a bonus.
I want to go back to the idea of identity for a second. How long does it usually take for a new behavior to actually feel like it is a natural part of who you are?
It varies widely depending on the person and the difficulty of the habit, but studies generally show it takes anywhere from 2 to 8 months for a new behavior to become automatic.
That is a relief to hear. I always felt like a failure when I tried something for 3 weeks and it still felt like a major struggle. Knowing it takes longer gives me much more patience.
Patience is absolutely essential. We live in a society that expects instant gratification, but genuine personal growth is a slow process. You are basically rewiring the neural pathways in your brain.
Rewiring the brain sounds intense, but it makes sense why those tiny 2-minute actions matter so much. Each repetition is like walking down a path in the forest. The more you walk it, the clearer the path becomes.
That is a beautiful analogy. The first time you walk through the forest, there is tall grass and branches in your way. It is difficult. But after 100 times, it becomes a smooth, worn trail.
And eventually, you do not even have to look at the map anymore. Your feet just know the way. That must be what it feels like when a habit finally becomes second nature.
Exactly. When a habit becomes second nature, you perform it almost unconsciously. You brush your teeth every morning without having an internal debate about whether or not you feel motivated to do it.
I am going to try this starting today. Instead of promising myself I will study a new language for an hour tonight, I am just going to commit to opening the textbook for exactly 2 minutes.
That is the perfect approach. And give yourself permission to stop after those 2 minutes if you want to. Sometimes you will stop, and that is fine. You still kept the core promise to yourself.
But I bet most of the time, once the book is physically open, I will just keep reading. The friction was in the starting, not in the actual learning process itself.
You hit the nail on the head. The heaviest weight to lift is always the weight of starting. Once you overcome that initial inertia, momentum usually carries you forward automatically.
It is funny how we trick ourselves. We know we are playing a mind game, but the mind game still works. I am tricking myself into starting by promising I can quit in 2 minutes.
Human psychology is beautifully complex that way. We can be completely aware of the mechanism and still benefit from it. The trick is simply lowering the barrier to entry so you do not procrastinate.
Procrastination is my biggest enemy. I will clean my entire apartment just to avoid doing one difficult task for work. It is productive procrastination, but it is still avoiding the real work.
Hello, everyone. This is Emma. Let's take a quick word tour to review some of the useful vocabulary and idioms from today's conversation. Our first word is overhauling. Early in our chat, I mentioned completely overhauling your diet. To overhaul something means to completely change, rebuild, or repair it to make it work better. It is a very big, sweeping change. Next, we talked about motivation being fleeting. When a feeling or a moment is fleeting, it means it lasts for a very short time. It comes and goes quickly, which is why we cannot always rely on it. Later, Tom mentioned a boom and bust cycle regarding his gym habits. This is a great phrase. A boom and bust cycle describes a situation where you have a period of intense activity or success, the boom, followed immediately by a period of total inactivity or failure, the bust. To prevent this, we discussed adding friction to bad habits. In this daily context, friction means resistance or difficulty. When you add friction, you intentionally make a task harder to do, like moving your phone into another room. Towards the end, Tom used the wonderful idiom, hit the nail on the head. If you hit the nail on the head, it means you described a situation or identified a problem perfectly and accurately. Finally, we talked about a habit becoming second nature. When an action becomes second nature, it means you have done it so many times that you can do it easily, almost without thinking, just like breathing. Try using one of these phrases in your own English conversations this week. Great job today. Listening to natural English like this is the best way to improve your skills. Remember, you can download the free PDF script for today's episode from the link in the description below. It's perfect for reviewing the dialogue and practicing the vocabulary we learned. If you enjoyed this lesson, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening and keep up the great work. See you next time!